O quinto painel chama ao palco a Maria Manuel Seabra da Costa, que vai moderar o painel.
Muito boa tarde. Good afternoon. Life is full of surprises. And before we start this last panel of this day, we have a surprise.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a surprise for me even yesterday. I didn't thought that I will be stand on the stage. So the gentleman next to me is Balázs, and my name is Joseph. And we are from Hungary, from the Hungarian National Member Association of Uniapac. 1 year ago, my spiritual life has significantly changed, thanks to a new movement, which was, or which is, a leading event of the Eucharistic Congress 2020. This event was a common adoration, and I joined this movement, and thanks to this movement, adoration became the significant element of my life. My connection, my contact with God became much more personal, much stronger, and more open. We would like to invite you to this movement because the next common adoration event will be tomorrow, which is a worldwide adoration. So the word is Balázs.
Thanks. My faith also originates in the silence. In the silence of the church, where I can meet Jesus, where I spend time with Christ, who is present in the Eucharistic also today. And if I have to leave my business life as a noble vocation, then this is the originating point, the time what I spent with him in the Eucharistic adoration. And if I have to invite others to live their business life as a noble vocation, I would invite them to take part in the Eucharistic adoration. What's needed for that? Just Jesus and you. Jesus is there and waiting for us every time. It's just needed your decision and my decision that I spend time with him regularly from time to time. And it's enough to have he and me together. But somehow there is power if we are in the adoration as a community. If we are taking our time and devote our time to him together. And that's why we are inviting now all of you for an Eucharistic adoration tomorrow morning, and hopefully 400 people here in Lisbon will join in this praying. But what if others would also join us? Maybe if we can zoom the map, maybe others from the Spain, maybe from Madrid, or other countries in Europe, and also other countries from the world. Can it become true? Yes. Tomorrow, more than around 1,000 communities from all around the world, from around 50 countries will join and spend an hour in adoration with Jesus. That's what we are calling you for. And we organize this as a preparation for the Eucharistic Congress, what will be held in 2020. We have a dream for that at that time, a lot of Christians from all around the world will come to us, and we will have hundreds of thousands of people adoring there. but we'll have hundreds of millions of people at the same time, but all our, in every corner of the world, we'll pray together. We hope this could become true, and we ask you to help in it, this dream to become true.
At 8 o'clock.
It will be 8 o'clock downstairs in the chapel.
And the chapel. So, very welcome you.
Thank you very much.
What such a nice invitation. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, we have been invited. So, we've been invited to be here in Lisbon, and we have been just invited to be downstairs in the chapel, 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you very much for such a nice way of starting the day tomorrow. Now, let's talk about business. The theme for this last panel, and we are the ones who are separating you from dinner. So, such a big challenge. The theme for this panel is fostering business that positively impact common good. So, now let's talk about business, as usual. Not social responsibility after business, but delivering business value proposition, and by that, achieving common good. And by that, accomplish the noble vocation that we have been called to. Is this a topic? Let's wait for the end of the panel to understand, whose topic is this. Let's be clear. Some programs of corporate social responsibility aim to reduce the impact of business activity. Or in other words, they have an objective is to solve problems that were created by business itself. So the challenge is, what about thinking the impact of business of our companies before we create the problems? Yesterday, Professor Stefano Zamagni highlighted the civil responsibility of companies, and that implies companies to look seriously about the way they are doing business. For that, probably we need to look to our business models and change them and redesign them. Think differently the way we define vision, define scenarios, but most of all, how we decide. Deciding is choosing, and choosing is define priorities and looking around the business community and the results that came from our decisions. And when we look around, I think we can confess that we cannot be completely proud, that we have to assume, and we have to assume that we can achieve more. So we need to think differently about our business models. And for that, I would like to invite Professor Raj Sisodia, that will open new roads that could guide us to build new companies and more respectful business. And then we will talk during the panel. Professor, the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really happy to be with you. This is the second time I've been privileged to attend the Uniapac event. The last time was at the Vatican, and His Holiness the Pope did come at the end, and as we all know, is a tremendously inspiring figure, especially for the world of business. I feel he has a message that is extremely important for us, and the theme of this event, business as a noble vocation, I think is a fundamental truth. In a free society, businesses are given the opportunity to meet the needs of all citizens. But with that comes a great responsibility. We have to do that in a way that actually uplifts and serves and heals. And so I'm going to frame this in terms of work that I'm involved in now, which is that business, I believe, can be and needs to be a source of healing in the world. The fact is, we do live in a world of extraordinary beauty and joy. We all experience that in our lives every day. But at the same time, we also recognize that life is also tragic and filled with suffering. That there are billions of people around the world who don't have their basic needs. There are billions of people who are suffering every day, and even billions of working people are suffering as well. So it's an interesting paradox that we live in. Physical violence is down dramatically compared to historic norms. Fewer people are being killed in wars, by murderers, by terrorists. Even accidental deaths are down. All of those statistics are wonderful. So we've made a lot of progress in many dimensions, but psychic suffering is actually on the rise. The levels of depression, anxiety, and even suicide have all been going up. And this, by the way, is across the income spectrum. In the United States, in 49 out of 50 states in the country, suicide rates have gone up actually in the last 17 years or so. So there's something very unhealthy. And as I said, a lot of this inflicts people who are working. So this is not just a problem for people who are unemployed, but actual full-time, the United States right now is an economy essentially with full employment and a booming stock market. The fact is that the way we work isn't working. So the way we work is actually causing a lot of suffering in the world. And as the Dalai Lama has said, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if we cannot help them, at least don't hurt them. And I do believe that in the world of business especially, we are inadvertently hurting people significantly. Some pretty sobering statistics around this. 88% of Americans feel they work for a company that actually doesn't view them or treat them as a human being, doesn't care about them as a human being. They're just a function or an object. We call them assets, we call them resources, you're an accountant, you're whatever, right? But your humanity, who you are as a person, doesn't really matter ultimately. We have the sad statistic that heart attacks are 20% higher on Monday morning. Our work is literally killing us. 4 a.m. Monday morning is the peak of heart attacks. Multiple studies have found this. A recent book by a Stanford professor, Jeffrey Pfeffer, called Dying for a Paycheck, has estimated that approximately 120,000 Americans are killed every year by work-related stress. It's not the work, it's the way in which we lead, organize, manage, and run our companies. And that's just the impact on employees. Think about the impact on their children, on their families. Think about the impact of the way we do business on customers, on our communities, on the environment, right? There's a tremendous amount of negative impacts that are the consequence of our old way of thinking about business. I talked about the US economy going through a period of seemingly boom times. But the fact is that even today, 60% of American households are technically insolvent. Their liabilities exceed their assets. And they're going further into debt every year. And at a time of historically low interest rates, think what would happen if interest rates became normal. There's mass devastation out there. These people are bankrupt without having declared bankruptcy. And that is 60% of Americans. And part of this is the way in which we practice capitalism. The fact is, in 35 years, worker pay is flat, and executive pay is up almost 1,000%. So the fruits and the benefits of this system are such that they should cause widespread prosperity for all. Capitalism is capable of doing that if we operate with the right level of consciousness. But that's not what's happening. In fact, 50% of Americans, if they needed $2,000, would not be able to raise it in 30 days. They have less than $400 in the bank, okay? And they could not raise $2,000 within 30 days. 100 million Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And in between paychecks, while they're waiting for their next paycheck, they get caught up, in payday lenders and all kinds of predatory entities that are out there to prey on the weakest and the poorest and the ones who are most vulnerable. Our system of capitalism, we're here, we're supposed to take care of each other and feed each other. Instead, we are devouring each other and taking advantage of each other in the name of business. That's not what business is. It's supposed to be. And the sad irony is that even our healing professions have become places of suffering. Doctors, nurses, and veterinarians have higher rates of depression, drug addiction, and suicide than the overall average. So again, the work is noble. Nobody would argue that their work is not noble, and yet the way we run our hospitals, the way we run our businesses in the healthcare sector is causing tremendous suffering, even for the caregivers. Nobody cares for the caregivers. And we're all caregivers, even if you're not doctors. But if you don't feel cared for, you cannot give what you don't have. And that's what's happening in our businesses. So the human costs of doing business are unconscionably high, extremely high. And there's no line item anywhere on an income statement or a balance sheet that captures the human cost. There's no invoice for the cost of suffering, for the early death, for the stress, for the insomnia, for the high blood pressure, all the things that happen and the impact on the kids. and the marriages and the families and the communities, there is invisible devastation out there. And we don't see it because we're not looking for it. As they say, as the expression goes, you will see it when you believe it. When you are willing as a leader to acknowledge the fact that, yeah, maybe my people are suffering. Maybe it's not what it appears on the surface. And as James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed. Nothing can be changed until it is faced. So we have to face up to the reality of the consequences of business as usual on people, on the future, on their children, on the planet, and beyond. And therefore, I've come to believe that healing needs to be the meta purpose of our time. For everybody, we have a tremendous, tremendous need for healing in every dimension. It doesn't matter if you're in business or if you're in education or if you're doctors, if you're in politics. There is a need to heal because there is suffering in every dimension that we see out there. We all need to heal ourselves. So many of us have wounds within us which we've never dealt with. We certainly need to heal our families and we need to heal our communities. But beyond that, we need to heal our companies. A lot of suffering that's going on there, and our countries. The United States has never been more divided than it is today, and that I think is true of many other countries as well. Certainly the UK and probably Brazil and many other countries are going through this tremendous division. We need to heal our planet and all the life that's on it. We're all familiar with the devastating statistic. We're living through the 5th great extinction in this planet's history, this one human caused. Right? And there are many, 50% of species that are with us today will be gone. Right? Within a few decades, 95% of the large mammals and the large fish are gone in this century. And we need to heal the past and the present and the future. You know, if you don't heal the past, you really cannot heal the present or the future. And this is a great lesson we can take away, I think, from South Africa. And what happened at the end of apartheid with Bishop Desmond Tutu and others, starting that truth and reconciliation process that enabled that society to move forward without engaging in revenge-fueled violence for decades. There was acknowledgement of the pain and suffering that had been inflicted, and then there was a closure on that, and now we can build something new. So in the present moment, we can heal the past, and in the present moment, we can do things to heal the future while we're healing ourselves today. If you don't do that, if you don't bring our attention to this issue, it is simply going to continue to get worse. That brings me to what is the true purpose of business? You know, in a free society, Adam Smith said, if all of us pursue our self-interest, we will collectively meet everybody's need and prosperity will rise. Right? So that was an important message. Freedom leads to prosperity. Free people making their own decisions ultimately will lead to prosperity. But human beings also have a need to care. In fact, Adam Smith wrote the book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, 17 years before he wrote The Wealth of Nations. The human need to care is even greater than our drive for self-interest. And these two things actually go together in business. Business is not only about me pursuing my self-interest and creating a company, it's about creating a business to express myself and serve others. It's not about using the business to serve myself. And when I serve others, I create all that value. Right? The more we give, the more we receive. These businesses are tremendously prosperous, but they're coming with an energy of serving and taking care of each other. Business is that vehicle that enables us to take care of each other at scale, right? With efficiency, with predictability, etc. But the mentality has got reversed. We've led with the idea of self-interest. I want to run this business to make a lot of money, and in order to do that, I have to serve my customers. It's almost an afterthought. Right? And I need to employ some people and hopefully give them a good place to work, but that's not the driving energy. The driving energy needs to be rooted in caring. So the true purpose of business, I believe, is meeting people's needs, taking care of their needs. And when you meet somebody's needs, you actually make them whole. You're filling a hole, you're filling a gap that exists in them. Right? So I believe in that sense, every business done with the right consciousness and the right energy is fundamentally about healing. And that's well expressed by the CEO of Southwest Airlines, which is the most successful airline in the history of the world. Started in 1970, 50 years consecutively grown, has been profitable, never had a strike, never had a single layoff in their entire history. Their stock market symbol is love. They never had a single passenger casualty in 50 years until earlier this year. And this is a company that was built by Herb Kelleher. And by the way, Colleen Barrett was the president, he was the CEO. And I interviewed Colleen, she said, Herb was the dad and I was the mom. It's that simple. And Herb said the business of business is people. Yesterday, today, and forever. It's that simple, really. Human flourishing is the highest value. And everything else, including profit and all the other things we could list about that come out of business, have to serve that ultimate end. But we have got it turned around. We've got it backwards. Somehow people are supposed to serve profit. And the well-being of people matters if it's going to increase profit. Everybody said, where's the business case for happiness? You know, it's like you're proposing marriage to somebody, right? You get down on your knees and say, would you marry me? And she says, why do you want to marry me? And you say, well, I read that married people live 5 years longer and they earn 30% more in their lifetime, right? That's what everything we do should be from love, right? Not naked self-interest. We do the right things, right? That's why I think we got the whole story wrong. Where did we go wrong? You know, I think as Einstein said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. So what was the consciousness that created the situation that we find ourselves in today? And I've been playing with this idea of these four essential human energies that I think all of us have and need to cultivate in a positive way. And what are those four? It's the masculine energy, strength, courage, resilience, focus, determination, etc. That's the mature, the father energy, right? It's the feminine energy, nurturing, caring, compassion, empathy, love, vulnerability, inclusiveness. It's the God energy of meaning and purpose and legacy and impact. And it's the child energy of joy and innocence and creativity. And these are things that need to be manifested in us. Just because I was a little boy and I became a man, that means the only thing I need is masculine energy. No, I still need all of us, Carl Jung said, every man has an inner woman. Every woman has an inner man. We need to cultivate all aspects of our humanity. We need to be connected with that higher power. We also need to be connected to that inner child. Without that, there's no joy in life and there's no creativity. There's no innovation unless there's an inner child, right? So we need to have all of those. And again, all of those have a shadow side to them. There's the hyper-masculine, domination, aggression, ambition, winning, results at all costs, right? Everything is a war. That's the hyper-masculine. And in the absence of the feminine, the mature masculine becomes the hyper-masculine. And I think in our world, in human history, we have had an excessive amount of masculine domination, patriarchies. Right? Every institution has been run by men on a limited set of masculine values. Women did not even have the right to vote or own property until a century ago in most advanced free societies. Think about that. The US is less than 100 years old as a democracy, right? So we haven't had, what we need is a combination of those things. And what we actually, if I were to diagnose where we are today in the world, and certainly in the US, you know, we don't have the mature mind, we've got a lot of hyper-masculine, you know, excessive conflict, right? We have, instead of true meaning and wisdom and purpose, we've got a lot of dogma and division related to religion in many societies. And we don't have that innocence and joy, but we have sort of that immature aspect. So I think what we need to do is cultivate those higher qualities. And they can all be cultivated within all of us. Whether you're a man or a woman, you can actually embody that wholeness. To heal somebody is to make them whole. We are all walking around fragmented. We're not a whole human being if we don't embody all four of those things and have access to all four of those things. You cannot always be one way, right? You have to have the capacity for each of those things. So how can business serve humanity is the fundamental question. This is actually an image from our last conference. I'm there somewhere in the back. And as His Holiness said, money must serve, not rule. Enterprises must not exist to earn money, even though money serves to measure their function. Enterprises exist to serve. It's a very simple and profound message. And one way to do that is to change the way we think about business. And there are four fundamental questions about everything in life, right? Why, what, who, and how. And if you ask the question again and look for a new answer for each of them, you'll find that, first of all, why? Why should our business exist? I think there's been a lot of great conversation about that here today. We need a higher purpose. Each one of us in our lives should have a higher purpose other than material possessions, right? Life is not about I end up with the most stuff and then I die. Life is about what did I do with this precious gift of human life lived in freedom? How did I bring that divine capacity that each of us is born with in order to take people to a better place? Right? So what is the higher purpose of the organization? Anything that we create should also have its own purpose, its higher purpose. Secondly, what? We need to create value for everybody whose lives we touch through the business. We have to have a positive impact on them. There is no win without a win-win. If anybody is losing in the entire ecosystem, you've made a wrong decision. Go back and look at it. Maybe in the short term, sometimes you might have to do that. In the long term, fundamentally, if all of the things are not aligned, it's not going to work. That business will fundamentally die. That is the weakest link. We have to consciously create value for each of the stakeholders. Serve them and create value for them. And of course, we need leaders who are motivated and driven by that. We need missionary leaders, not mercenary leaders or military-style leaders. We need people who are driven by that purpose, which is aligned to their own inner calling, and who are also there to serve the people. As opposed to people who are motivated, driven by their ego and their lust for power and money. Those are insatiable hungers. They can never be filled by any amount of power or money. If that's all you care about, you will never be happy because there'll always be somebody more powerful and somebody richer in the world. We need leaders who are fundamentally driven by that. Conscious leaders. We call them selfless leaders. They've transcended the self. And we need cultures that are rooted in trust and care and transparency and authenticity. Most companies have a tremendous amount of fear and stress in them, as we've talked about. Right? So I'm going to focus on the top two of those. We don't have time to go into all of these, but let's just talk a little bit about purpose. By the way, for each of them, there's an acronym that kind of captures the essence. Purpose will be healing. Stakeholders, I'm going to talk about spicy. And the leaders is selfless. And the culture is tactile. So purpose. It's about doing something worth doing and figuring out how to make money doing it. Both are essential. If it's going to be a business, both are essential, right? Because if you cannot figure out how to make money doing it, well, sooner or later you're going to be out of business, and therefore you cannot do the thing that is worth doing. So you have to figure out a business model, and the more you can do that, the more you can achieve something that is worth doing, rather than doing something just to make money. You know, you have access to a different reservoir of power and energy when you tap into doing something worth doing. When people don't just say, I've got a job to get to, they say, I've got work to do. That's what gets me out of bed Monday morning. Not maximizing shareholder value, but actually doing something meaningful through my work. Right? And so having that purpose is so essential. And something like 88% of Americans now say that matters in their life. So I've come to believe, as I said, every great purpose needs to be a healing purpose, because in a world with so much suffering and ill health, this is the most noble calling we can think of. And again, to quote the Pope, all human activities, including business, can be an exercise in mercy, which is partaking in God's love for mankind. And in fact, the book I'm working on now is called The Healing Organization. And we have 25 stories of companies that are actually taking people who are burned out, stressed out, their families were damaged, their community, and turning their lives around, restoring them to wholeness and flourishing. But healing also stands for the qualities of a great purpose. It's heroic. It is worth doing and therefore not easy. It evolves as you evolve. It's aligning. It aligns all your stakeholders together. When you don't have a shared purpose, then you have cross purposes, right? You're literally working at cross purposes, because the CEO said, we're maximizing profit. Customer said, okay, I want to get the lowest price every single time. Employees say, I want to work as little and get paid as much as possible. Suppliers say, I want to maximize my margin. Society wants to tax you as much as possible. Everybody becomes a taker from that system. The more you take, the more you bleed that system to death. In order to win, we have to give. Everybody, when you have a shared purpose, everybody is contributing to the realization of that beautiful vision. And of course, as we all know, the more we give, the more we actually receive. But we're not doing it with that energy. We're doing it because we believe in it. The next pillar is stakeholders, and here the acronym is SPICE. I don't have a good explanation for that other than that I'm from India. And I thank the Portuguese every day, by the way. They brought hot chilies to India, okay? Hundreds of years ago, right? But spicy. So society comes first. Society, partners, investors, customers, employees, and the environment, right? We have to be on the right side of society. We cannot be part of the problem. We have enough problems, okay? Business doesn't need to be adding to them. How do we make sure we're part of the solution? How do we actually create peace and prosperity through commerce rather than use and exploit. So the energy in the top row, you have an investor who doesn't care how the money is made, right? You're blind to the question of how. And then you have, you're using and exploiting society, right? And you can see the slums and all the devastation that exists out there. You're squeezing your partners and your suppliers. You're treating your customer as a consumer. His job is to just consume as much as possible. We don't care about his health or well-being, right? Employees. So we're using and exploiting in order to make money for investors. That's the energy, the old energy, right? As opposed to taking care and serving the needs of each of them, right? And by doing that, investments that make a difference and make a great return. Very quickly, as I mentioned, the qualities of great leaders, we use the acronym SELFLESS. If you're a selfish human being, you have no right to call yourself a leader. Because if you're going to use other people to achieve your personal goals in life, that makes you a tyrant. That's not a leader. A true leader is there to take people to a better place, to have a vision of what is possible. A true leader can see beyond what other people are capable of seeing, and then devise an approach, a strategy. How do we get there? They have to transcend the self. It goes beyond self-actualization to say, I'm now looking at the collective whole, the collective self. How do we all get to a better place? And then it's a combination of all of these things. You can see a combination of masculine and feminine in there as well. You have to be strong and you have to be rooted in love. As Martin Luther King said, we must be tough-minded and tender-hearted. It's not either or. Strength without love is tyranny. Love without strength is ineffectiveness. We had plenty of strong leaders in this continent, in the last century. They almost destroyed human civilization. And then we've had leaders like Lincoln and Gandhi and Mandela and King and others who blended strength, moral strength, with love. And they fundamentally transformed human society for the better. And that's what we need in our businesses as well. This idea is captured in the US military in the notion of leaders eat last. In the military, there's a tradition of lining up in reverse order of seniority. You have to take care of the people before you take care of yourself. And this doesn't happen in business, as Simon Sinek has said. In the military, they give medals to those who are willing to sacrifice themselves so others may gain. In business, we give bonuses to those who are willing to sacrifice others so they may gain. If you do a mass layoff, your stock price goes up. You get millions of dollars, literally, from doing a mass layoff. Wall Street loves layoffs. The cultures are defined using the word tactile. You can feel and experience the culture of a conscious business the minute you walk into it. And I'm just going to focus on that word caring, because fundamentally, that's what this whole thing is about. The fundamental difference between a conscious business and a traditional business, these businesses are explicitly and unashamedly and proudly rooted in love and care. And we must build businesses on love and care. And this was really the foundation for my research and my involvement in all of this 11 years ago. I wrote a book called Firms of Endearment, which was about companies that are loved by everybody. Customers love them, employees love them, communities love them, etc. And that was interesting enough. And then at the end, I said, how do they do financially? And I wasn't very optimistic. I said, they're paying their people much better. Some cases double. They're providing great benefits compared to their competitors, right? They are investing in their customer care. They are not squeezing their suppliers. Their suppliers are profitable and therefore innovative. They are investing in their communities. They're investing in the environment, and they're paying taxes at a much higher rate. I said, maybe there's a little less left over for investors. As it turns out, is a lot more. These businesses outperform the market dramatically in the long term. It was 9-1 in the original research, and we did a second edition of that book with a much larger set of companies, 7.7-1 over 20 years. Dramatic outperformance financially, even while you're serving all the other stakeholders. You're not looking to maximize profit, and yet you're making much more profit than you thought possible. You would never have dreamt to put a target like that out there, and yet that's what these companies are doing. So these companies are very profitable, and profit is important. It's a social good. We are never against profit. Without profit, free societies do not function. Because without profit, there's no taxes. Without taxes, there's no infrastructure. There's no public education. There's nothing. So profits, it is socially irresponsible not to be profitable, because somebody else could be using that capital and doing something more meaningful with it. But it matters how you make the money. Because you can make the money by squeezing every other aspect, all your stakeholders, everything else, right? In order to squeeze out every last penny for yourself, or you can actually create multiple kinds of value for everybody. Because businesses don't just create, but they also destroy wealth. We have to remember this. 3 trillion of wealth was wiped out in the last financial crisis, right? But it's not just Financial wealth is intellectual capital. It's social capital, the amount of trust and cohesion in society. It's emotional well-being, operating from love and care, not fear and stress in my life. It's spiritual well-being, having meaning and purpose in my life through my work. It's the impact on our culture. What's the definition of a good life? It's the impact on our bodies. It's the impact on the environment. These are all the consequences of how we operate as a business. And a conscious business will explicitly try to have a positive impact in all these areas for all their stakeholders, as long as they exist. And a conventional business will say, well, we're all about making money, maximizing profits. Milton Friedman said so. Everything else is a side effect. The fact is, on this planet, there's nothing called a side effect. We do things and there are effects. Now, just because you put it in fine print or say it fast doesn't make it less important. And this is about doing business with a spectrum of positive effects. We cannot afford the side effects of traditional business. They are devastating us. They are stealing our future, literally. We cannot afford that. We need to do business with a spectrum of positive effects. So, in conclusion, it is time for business to step up to its rightful role, its responsibility in a free society. It's time for business to wake up to that, to become more conscious, to grow up, and to actually engage, to show up and be part of the solution, rather than simply looking to say, how can I make money while everything around me is moving towards devastation. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. I just stay here.
Yes, please. Thank you very much, Professor. After such inspiring keynote speaker, we have a very interesting panel. So this panel, like all the others, is very rich. And we'll have the chance to listen different perspectives about the experience, how can we foster business that positively impact common good. So we are going to listen some experience, real experience of business that try to achieve this common good. We'll have the honor to listen examples from Spain, France, Philippines, Thailand, and UK, and from sectors as a university, finance sector, mining, conglomerate, and government sector. How can we deal with government? So for that, I will invite my dear friends of this panel to come on stage. José Luis Mendonça Pérez, por favor. Claudia Belli, Roberto Lavigna, and Virashai Tekjavit, please.
Muchas gracias, querida Ana Manuel. Felicito de corazón a Uniapac y a todos los responsables de la Universidad Católica de Lisboa, ¿no?, por esta labor impresionante que se está llevando a cabo, y os saludo cordialmente. Yo voy a hablar desde el punto de vista de la fe. Yo presido una universidad católica con 22.000 alumnos y más de 3.000 trabajadores. Es un milagro, una gracia de Dios, fomentar negocios que impacten positivamente en el bien común. Lo nuestro no es un negocio, es una fundación sin ánimo de lucro, de manera que no hay reparto de bienes y todo se destina para ayudar a los más necesitados, para becar a alumnos, familias necesitadas, etc. La fundo hace 22 años, estoy casado con María Dolores, que me acompaña, tenemos 14 hijos, 7 y 7. 7 and 7. Somos expertos en planificación familiar. No, nos hemos fiado de Dios. Esto decía el cardenal López Trujillo cuando éramos miembros del Pontificio Consejo para la Familia. Ahora somos miembros de la Academia Pontificia para la Vida y también del Pontificio Instituto Juan Pablo II para la Familia. Siempre para servir a la Iglesia. La experiencia del amor de Dios me lleva a fundar la universidad hace 22 años. Fuimos de misioneros enviados por el Papa Juan Pablo II a principios de los 90, con 8 hijos, a trabajar en República Dominicana en zonas muy pobres, muy difíciles. En aquella época de crisis, en zonas de haitianos, no teníamos agua potable, no teníamos luz y cogimos todas las enfermedades del trópico. Pero esa experiencia nos ayudó a madurar en la fe. y vimos el amor de Dios en nuestra vida a través de hermanos que sufrían enormemente, que no tenían para comer ni para vestir, que vivían en condiciones inhumanas. Fundo la universidad con un modelo anglosajón, estilo de modelo norteamericano, que Dios ha bendecido. Y bueno, pues como presidente de la UCAN yo quiero poner de manifiesto que la profesión de empresario es una profesión maravillosa, vocacional, que debe ser fundamentada en el amor y la entrega generosa a los demás. Es decir, como se ha dicho muy bien, en el amor. Pero el amor es Dios. Si en ti habita el Espíritu Santo, la fuerza del amor de Dios, tú puedes dar la vida por los demás. Tener 14 hijos, si no, es imposible, porque el hombre de la carne, dice el apóstol San Pablo, por más que pueda, está incapacitado por el pecado original para hacer la voluntad de Dios. Pero si habita el Espíritu Santo realmente, podemos dar la vida por los demás sin esperar nada a cambio. Una universidad que se fundamenta y se apoya en un trípode: la docencia, la investigación, la evangelización. Y luego también, pues, importantes labores en el ámbito del deporte, de la innovación tecnológica, etc. En la UCAN trabajamos para ser un referente nacional e internacional en el ámbito de la educación superior, por la calidad de la docencia, de la investigación y su comportamiento fiel al Evangelio de nuestro Señor Jesucristo y al magisterio de la Iglesia, representado por el Papa Francisco, al que yo llamo el Papa de la Misericordia de los pobres. He tenido una estrecha relación con él, nos ha confiado un proyecto a nivel mundial que es una maravilla, se lo decía ahora a Rolando, de Chile, de trabajar en zonas pobres del mundo, llevar la formación a los más pobres de la tierra. La formación es fundamental. ¿Cómo lo hacemos? A través de un sistema online. Empezamos en Nairobi, Benín, Nueva Delhi, Mozambique, nos ha pedido el Papa también en la China. Ya estamos trabajando en muchos países del mundo con éxito. Ofrecer una garantía de calidad en la formación, pero también he apostado por la investigación, que sabéis que es fundamental en la vida. Una universidad que no investiga es una academia de enseñanza. Este año hemos invertido más de 17 millones de euros en investigar. Juan Carlos Pisúa, el famoso investigador que en Sol Institute California está investigando con nosotros en el ámbito de la regeneración de órganos, retinosis pigmentaria, curación de la ceguera, regeneración de los rejuvenecimientos, esclerosis múltiple, etcétera. Es algo que estamos llevando a cabo en nuestra universidad. El deporte también, tenemos miles y miles de deportistas, porque decía el Papa que el deporte ayuda a la formación integral de la persona. Capacidad de crecimiento, capacidad de lucha, capacidad de trabajo, espíritu deportivo. El deporte une a las naciones, a los pueblos, a las familias, a las religiones. En la Olimpiada de Río de Janeiro conseguimos con Stanford el mayor número de medallas del mundo, todo patrocinado por la universidad. Creo que hay que fomentar esto en la universidad, el deporte entre los jóvenes, pero sobre todo el amor de Dios. ¿Para qué quieres ganar el mundo si arruinas tu vida? Facilitar el encuentro con Jesucristo resucitado, que ha vencido la muerte y el pecado, y a todos nos hace partícipe de este triunfo sobre la muerte y el pecado. Él nos da la vida. Aquí estamos de paso cumpliendo una misión, siendo testigos del amor de Dios, haciendo, como bien ha dicho, el mayor bien posible a los demás, a través del mundo empresarial. En nuestra universidad pretendemos, como eje de referencia social, desempeñar un papel importante en el desarrollo y crecimiento de una sociedad que defienda los valores éticos y morales, así como la libertad y la dignidad de la persona. El Papa Benedicto XVI, cuando vino a la universidad, me dijo: un momento, educar en valores éticos y morales es importante, pero mucho más facilitar el encuentro con Jesucristo. Nosotros somos, por eso, una universidad profundamente existencial, impulsada por la fuerza del amor de Dios manifestada en Cristo Jesús, solidaria con los más pobres, con los más necesitados, con los que más sufren, con los más enfermos, porque ahí está Cristo presente. En cuanto a todos los que ejercemos la profesión de empresarios, de dirigir una gran empresa con más de 3.000 trabajadores, catedráticos, el mundo de la sabiduría hay, porque la verdadera sabiduría es la que viene de Dios, esa es la que salva. La sabiduría que adquieres en la universidad es útil para ejercer una profesión, pero no olvidemos que el trabajo es un instrumento que Dios da al hombre para vivir y para hacer el bien. Entonces, el mundo empresarial, generador de riqueza y puestos de trabajo, nosotros los empresarios estamos llamados a contribuir de manera efectiva a la mejora del desarrollo económico, social y cultural, colaborando así con la reconstrucción de una sociedad en crisis y la recuperación del bienestar social. No quiero que olvidéis que la vida humana y sus valores son el principio y el fin de todo proyecto social y empresarial, y que los trabajadores que desempeñan su labor profesional en cualquier empresa son el patrimonio más valioso de la misma, pues son en definitiva el verdadero factor de producción. Hay que amarlos, servirlos, ayudarlos, sin olvidar la importancia que tiene en toda empresa el llevar a cabo una eficaz gestión económica fundamental para el buen funcionamiento de la misma. Si falla la gestión económica, adiós empresa. En nuestra Universidad Católica, en Murcia, en el sureste español, allí en la huerta murciana, ha sido fundamental y clave del éxito de la misma el poner en marcha un sistema de garantía de gestión de la calidad, que esto debe de implantarse en todas las empresas, para que todos en la universidad funcionemos como un reloj, del primero al último, empezando por mí, que soy la cabeza. Estamos de acuerdo, ¿verdad? Que en mi opinión deben de implantar. Luego, la formación a todos los trabajadores es fundamental, fomentar la investigación, I+D+I. Y cómo no, ¿por qué no se pueden formar doctores dentro de las empresas? Lo estamos haciendo nosotros. Eso ayuda a regenerar la empresa desde dentro. Es muy importante esto también. Factores que hay que cuidar. Nosotros estamos trabajando en la acción social corporativa, el servicio a los pobres es fundamental. A nuestros alumnos los mandamos a los países pobres para que tengan experiencias en su vida que les ayude. Actualmente estamos realizando trabajos en Perú. Estamos en Cuba 9 años, dando formación a los cubanos. No sé si habrá alguien de Cuba, no les cobramos nada. Lo hacemos todo gratis, por amor, porque hay que hacer las cosas por amor. Como Dios hace con nosotros, que nos ha creado para toda la eternidad, por amor. Un amor misericordioso que necesita conocer a los demás. Un Dios que nos ama tal y como somos, sin exigirnos nada a cambio. Y luego también estamos trabajando en el ámbito de la medicina y de la cirugía solidaria en África, llevando cuerpos de médicos, enfermeros, trabajando con los más pobres, haciendo intervenciones quirúrgicas en hospitales que se montan allí. Tenemos subcampacitas, trabajamos con los más discapacitados. Llevamos 10 años trabajando con discapacitados intelectuales, formándolos durante 2 años. En la universidad tenemos trabajando 20 y tantos chicos.
Solo tienes más un minuto.
Bien. Bueno, pues yo creo que un poco...
Es poco para tanto.
Sí, no tenemos más tiempo, pero yo deseo de todo corazón que a todos los empresarios que están aquí presentes, a todos nosotros Dios nos conceda espíritu de entrega y de servicio. Capacidad para amar y perdonar, capacidad para servir y para ayudar a los más pobres, a los más necesitados, a los que más sufren. No olvidemos que Dios ama la justicia y el derecho y de su amor está llena la tierra. Que Dios nuestro Señor ilumine vuestra mente y fortalezca vuestra voluntad para que ejerzáis vuestra profesión como líderes empresariales y como empresarios y emprendedores, ofreciendo un valioso servicio a la sociedad. Buscad el reino de Dios y los demás se os dará por añadidura. Ama, decía San Agustín, y haz lo que quieras. Nosotros desde la UCAM, desde esta universidad, seguiremos tratando de formar la conciencia de los futuros empresarios en valores y virtudes a la luz del humanismo cristiano, que ayudan a humanizar la empresa y el trabajo en aras de una sociedad más justa. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. So we have the honor to learn how universities can improve business capacity to improve this common good. We know that there are sectors that are not perceived as foster common goods. One of these sectors is mining. But to know more about good examples, I invited Felix Pohl to share your perspective and to teach us to change our perspective of your sector.
Thank you. May I speak from here? 'Cause
Yes,
I
yes, of
have
course.
the slides. And I apologize for my voice. I had a stinking cold. That was a very inspiring talk then, and it's difficult to come in rather a softer tone after it. But when Rolando and I were having dinner in Rome, and he suggested this, I think it was only after the first or second glass of wine, I can't remember. It was about the fourth when I said I would do it. I wasn't quite sure whether he meant mining is a noble vocation with a question mark at the end, or whether, but I'm going to express it to try to say that we do try to do things which you could call noble. The etymology of noble is pretty well known, and it comes down to having high moral qualities. The etymology of vocation is rather more interesting, because in the 13th century in England it referred to shouting rather than just having a vocation. St. Paul in Corinthians talks about vocation as let every man abide in the same calling wherein he was called. I don't think we really want that now. We want people to be mobile and to understand things and to move on. So how do those opening comments relate to mining, which is an activity which can and is controversial in many ways? And first of all, just a few figures. Mark Cutifani, who's the CEO of the mining company Anglo-American and a very committed Christian, has calculated that 45% of the world's GDP is driven by mining, either on a direct basis or through the associated industries and things that it supports. Mining product revenue, direct revenue, is 11.5% of GDP. Mining, for all its controversy that sometimes stirs, occupies less than 1% of the Earth's surface, consumes 1% of the water, and emits less than 3% of emissions. We also employ a very, very large number of people worldwide. We can come to that later on. My company, on the other hand, unlike Anglo-American, is tiny. We are small and we are local. And because we're local, we have a very significant impact on our local community. And if you ask us why we play an active role in the community, which we will do, it's because of the rapidly changing socio and economic circumstances which take place in Africa, which is where we are operating. We have a moral duty to our neighbours. Who is our neighbour? As I think a very important point. Not just the people who work on the mine, but the people who surround us and the community at large. I think you are all familiar with the golden rule of both Judaism and Christianity, to know thy neighbour, etc. So we need to go into it. We are in southern Zambia. It's an area which has no history of mining. It's primarily agricultural. When our mine becomes operational, we shall mine principally a metal which is called nickel. We shall also have copper, cobalt and palladium. Nickel is an essential to almost everything that you do in your life at the moment. You don't have stainless steel, you wouldn't have the strengthening of the wings of aeroplanes, etc., etc. We will employ at our full start-up. We are in the process of starting up at the moment, an old mine which was closed some years ago, 350 people. The multiplier in that part of Zambia is 10 to 1. So those 350 people will be responsible for feeding 3,500 people. And we calculate that a further 3,000 to 4,000 people will be dependent on the mine for the provision of services to it. This is a very big impact in a community, particularly a community which has relatively high unemployment and also has big shortage in skill sets. When we complete the mining operation, the land will be completely rehabilitated. It's an underground mine. It's not a great big open pit, which presents a different problem. Underground mine, which will be sealed. All the equipment and machinery will be removed from the site. The site will be renovated. We have several hundred hectares on the site, and it's going to be turned into a game park with a hotel, tourist centre, etc., etc. The people who work for us when we finish mining, and indeed some of us will leave in the process, will have been trained in life skills. They will be mechanics, they'll be technicians, they'll be computer experts, etc., etc. People will come. We are a school. We're a kind of university, but with a primary school attached to it. People will have the skills to go forward and work in other industries, not just mining, and will do well, I hope. We will also have paid a very large amount in tax and royalties. This is a controversial subject because those particularly people who are anti-mining would like us to pay much more. We, of course, would like to pay less. The taxation system in Zambia is split between profits tax and a royalty. A royalty is paid, and you pay basically a rent for the land from the government. You then work the mine, extract it, and you pay various levels of taxation. Part of the of the taxation which we pay is meant to be in respect of the rent of the land which was part of the tribal area. And sadly, much of that money does not come back into the community. So we therefore have a responsibility to provide a huge number of community services. This is not corporate and social responsibility. That's easy to do. The word now is that we have to go beyond that. We have to look beyond it. We have to talk about people becoming whole human beings with ability to move forward into their future work. So why is mining a noble vocation? Well, I can only really answer that from personal experience. I'm not a Catholic, but through one of your members, Nelida Ancora, who I think is well known to you, we came to know the churches, the Catholic Church's moves to bring about dialogue between the mining companies and the government, and the mining companies and civil society. And through that introduction, we were, and because we also were aware of the fact that of the encyclical Laudato Si, a conference was organized in Zambia by the Bishops' Conference, and we were very honored that His Eminence Cardinal Turkson came to address us. And he stayed for the full period of 2 days there, talking to people and providing a very important impetus into our discussions. This has led to the Bishops' Conference now having dialogue with the government and with the Chamber of Mines to try to move forward with a proper understanding of what mining can do for the communities in which we are working and for the common good. Because too much is said of extractions, extractives, and going on just taking the tax and all the rest of it. We're there for a long time. We're part of the community. We have to work with the community, and we have to have a symbiotic relationship between ourselves and the community. So the Pope in paragraph 129 of his encyclical said, "Business is a noble vocation," which is the title of this, okay? Directed to producing wealth and improving our world. It can be a fruitful source of prosperity for the area in which it operates, especially as it sees the creation of jobs and the essential part of its services for the common good. That sums up really what we are trying to do.
1 more minute, please.
And I think that we are guided by that moral compass. If you're faced with a binary choice of short-term profit or longer-term sustainability and the build-up of the community, you have to take the second. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Another sector perceived as not so fostering common good is finance sector. Claudia Belli will bring us reasons to believe in the capacity of this sector to work for the common good. Claudia, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So, good morning, bon dia, buenos dias. I had prepared some slides, but I don't know if they are available.
They will appear.
Yeah, they will be
We have
coming.
to trust.
The idea for us as a BNP Paribas, as the first bank of the Eurozone, is that we can be exemplary. We can give the example of what can be done, cannot be done, and we have to do something for the society. So back in 2012, we created a CSR, a corporate social responsibility, which was immediately depending from the board, the EXCO. And it was already eligible to create something else in the business. So our CSR was already embedded from that moment on, tried to do things embedded into the business, so to be sure that the businesses were pointing into the right directions. So when we are asked if the business is noble vocation, yes, of course it is, and we have to do good in business and we have to avoid harm in business. So what we decided to say is that, first of all, let's avoid anything which is harmful. So we worked, for instance, with specific credit policies. Because you're a bank, you have credit policies, where to do credit, where to not do credit. And so all the specific sectors which could be difficult to understand, palm oil, paper, coal, nuclear arms, of course, tobacco. So we decided to work on specific credit policies for this. And in some cases, we also decided to stop financing something, which was a very difficult question. Is it better to keep on working in a specific sector which is doubtful, or is it better just to stop, jump out, and somebody else is going to work with them? So sometimes we had to choose to stop. So we stopped working on tobacco, for instance. It was a huge decision taken the end of 2017. We decided to stop working into financing or investing into shale gas, into oil coming from sands, or into the exploration of the Arctics. So it was a difficult decision, a lot of profits lost, of course. But still, we decided, after working with experts, that it was really useful to stop there. In some other cases, we decided to work in a different way and to go ahead in a different way, so being very careful and helping our clients toward a better energy consumption or toward a better diversification of their sources. So after doing bad, after changing the way of doing bad, stopping, accompanying, working along with some clients, we also decided that we have to do good, because you cannot just say to the teams, stop doing everything, because then they say, well, we are still a bank, aren't we? Or are we just a social purpose company? No, we are still a bank. So we decided to work for the good, and we decided to do something proactively. So since we are engaged into the Paris Agreement, into the 2 degrees scenario decided by the Paris Agreement for the energy transition, so we decided to set up a series of policies helping the people, our collaborators, our employees, to work towards that aim, which are things like creating a platform for the carbon compensation, so that any client can use this platform and do a proactive carbon compensation. We decided to increase the financing of the green business, of the hydropower plants, solar power plants, whatever is renewable. And each time we have put data on it, measurement, and then, well, the KPIs, the key performance indicators are measured, and then there is something beyond it. We just not say we would like to do it. We say we'd like to do it, let's measure, and if it's not, there's something, if it's done, there's something else. So this is a way that we found out to support the innovation, to create more green bonds, and to be an actor for the good. Another very interesting thing that is very proactive now, and all the teams has been working on it, are the positive incentive loans, which is something that could be very just easy, but it's so interesting, because clients also say, we are engaged, or we want to do something, but what can we do? In the end, the financing is still a financing. And actually, we decided to do positive incentive loans, which is you do a loan at a certain pricing, but if you, client, you're going to create better ESG policies, environmental, social governance policies. If you, clients, you're going to increase your extra financial rating on something, or you are doing a specific thing that is going to be very good for the environment, then the pricing is going to be decreasing, because we understand that you're having a greater cost on it, and we want to be an actor for this change. So one among the things that we think that is very important for this change is the social entrepreneurship. This morning, there was AMH, the largest social enterprise in Morocco, is a typical one of the clients that we want to have, and luckily it's one of our clients, but is typically the social enterprise is what we think is the future. So, because social enterprise is an entrepreneurship model, viable model, and a purpose of just creating a solution for a social or environmental problem. So we decided to support social enterprises. We are a bank, these are enterprises, they need whatever banking services. And so we're achieving now, at the end of the year, we are already at 1.2 billion of support of social enterprises. This is part of what we call it working for the common good, because working for social enterprises can be difficult. They are enterprises that are really very keen to be worked with, but very difficult because they can have higher costs or lesser or lower more equity or things like this. Also, we decided to work on social impact bonds, which are specific multi-party agreement where you measure the social impact, and if the social impact is achieved, governments earn money and then they reimburse the investors. So we're deciding to create social innovation, social financial innovation, in order to push, to go toward a change, a positive change in the world. And then, well, you cannot do it if you don't have a manager and all a board going towards this. And so we are lucky enough that from since the moment that we created Good CSR, there was a board really very pushy, very positive, and who decided to go ahead on this path, saying, of course, we need to create our profit, but each time we have to look at the very final impact of what we are doing. And so the examples that we are doing now is really that since this movement, we see that the company is engaged, but the people are engaged, which is the nicest thing is this. As soon as you do a good thing, it's a win-win. It's not only for you, it's also for the client, and it's also for the people who are very, very engaged on this. So now we are achieving to have more green loans, green bonds. We signed the tobacco-free engagements, and everything is going ahead. And this is the very last slide. We're really engaged also in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And for instance, so we started to measure this, how much of our financing is strictly in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. And back in 2015, with an external agency, we calculated this, and we were doing already 1,535 billion financing of SDGs. So we said, okay, we have to increase this. And just by setting this as a target, all the people working for the bank started to imagine, to create new products, to create new funds, like one fund dedicated to green energy that is available for retail companies, for retail markets and for the individuals, or like making syndicated loans with a rating directly linked to SDGs. Well, everybody now is focalizing in this way, creating business and creating the good. This is it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So how can you articulate common goods when we have a group of companies? So it's time for us to listen our experience from Philippines through Roberto Lavinia experience.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to comment on the presentation of Raj. Raj, I really like your proposed idea of business, that business is fundamentally about healing. Because I share this belief, and so does the FINMA Group, our conglomerate that operates in the Philippines. In FINMA, we believe that our business is our CSR, and CSR is our business. We choose businesses that we believe will deliver the necessities for a dignified life, for our customers, for our employees, for the communities where we operate. Our vision, our mission is to make lives better. Let me illustrate this with two of our businesses. First is affordable housing, and the second is affordable education. One of our big successes in socialized housing has been the development of an on-site relocation for informal settler families living in a slum area in one of the most populous cities in the country. It involved community building, not just the construction of houses. This meant providing values training, livelihood opportunities, and community facilities to the homeowners. We want to go back. One more. There. From this is what we got. This is a total of about 1,100 units from mud roads, from patched up shanties to concrete homes with concrete roads, the provision of running water, legal electrical connection, and a secure home which they will eventually own at a cost that is lower than what they used to pay to syndicates operating in the slum area. Our framework calls for partnerships with the landowner, with the local government for the provision of basic infrastructure. We work with NGOs and local companies for livelihood opportunities, government financial institutions for buyer financing, and Catholic lay organizations like the BCBP for the values and spiritual formation. There is also a counterpart framework for home buyers, where they pledge to adhere to community rules, they complete attendance in the values and spiritual formation, they agree to regularly pay their loan amortizations and dues, they participate in community activities and do community work. This project was recognized by the United Nations Development Program and has been visited many times over by people who likewise wish to improve the lives of slum dwellers in their locale. Turning now to education. Most of the 70,000 students in our schools come from public high schools, and almost all are not ready for college. In fact, the average math and reading capability of incoming freshmen is at the grade 4 level. However, by investing heavily in teacher training, by pushing an intensive student success program, by leveraging our management expertise to control costs, and because everyone in the faculty and administration share the same desire to help the students achieve a better life, we have been able to keep tuition fees at between $250 to $300 per semester. And 70% of our graduates are employed within 1 year. This compared to the national average of about 50%. All this, of course, required that everyone in senior-most management levels of the group decide to invest our God-given talents behind this mission. We constantly reiterate our core values of integrity, competence, professionalism, and patriotism, and talk about the goal to uplift the lives of our countrymen, not just to our colleagues in FINMA, but also to our peers in industry, so that they join us in this effort. We believe that conducting business with a social mission is not the luxury of a few, but is the challenge of the many who are committed to the pursuit of a better world. Many years ago, soon after I joined FINMA, I heard our chairman quote someone who said, "I will work 8 hours for good pay. I will work 12 hours for a good boss. I will work 24 hours for a good cause." Whether you call it converting our businesses into healing agents or fostering businesses that positively impact the common good, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that making lives better is a good cause. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Yesterday, Professor Stephanie challenged companies to act as political agents. And that brings us probably a question: how can we deal with government and policy agents? In the previous panel, we have some insights and some opinions about and some examples on how these companies dealing with government and with local authorities and the difficult ways of dealing with such in such level. So, least but not the last, I will ask, or the opposite. I will ask. The question is to see if everybody is paying attention to what I'm saying. To share this perspective on that, and I invite to the stage Virachai that will talk us how can we deal with political agents and how can we change companies as a really political agent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry.
I think for those of us who used to teach, probably prefer standing talking so that you can see all the students in your class.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for putting me in the very last panel and very, very last person, because actually I'm risking losing half of the audience. But I noticed there's only 1/3 that's sort of like walking out. No, not really, 1/5.
No, not really.
But I would like to tell you that you won't regret that you're hanging on until my part. I promise to be very worthy. Thanks, of course, for inviting Thailand to be included in the program. And as you know, Thailand is a very, very small country if you counting Catholic. It's only about 300,000 Catholics. A size of population of 67 million. 1% would be 670,000, but we only half of that. So it's not easy really to be able to perform the Caritas in Veritate in such a way that you be the role model for others, because we are so tiny. But yet, we are pleased to tell you that we do make some impact. And many of our Catholic colleagues are doing extremely well in the society, in the economics and so on and so forth. But anyway, what I would like to share with you today, although it's printed that I'm the founder and the chairman of the Region International School and Colleges, but I would like to perhaps, not talking about education, but would like to hit on something very urgent at the moment about the digital disruption. Although education is so important, I taught 6 years in the States, and my last appointment was the lecturer at UCLA for the MBA program, because my doctorate dissertation was about internal control in the database management. Back then, computer is regarded as a black box, and the auditor is so afraid to really audit the company with all these computers. This is back in late 1970s. So many, many years ago. So it was very difficult for me to formulate a sort of a tool for the auditor to walk through the company that uses a database environment. But it took so many years that now, today, we have that technology. So if I have to go back again and do my dissertation, definitely I will do this digital technology to help mankind. Now, as we all know, that Uniapac position clearly declares that the business is a noble vocation, as it creates work and consequently improve human and social welfare. Therefore, it is a fundamental duty for any businessman, not only Christian businessman or Catholic, and of course woman, to ensure that his or her business enhance better welfare for everyone inside and outside their organization. But in the reality, a chief executive officer or senior officer of these enterprises or organization seem to overlook the human weakness. And this is the cause of corruption, or the result of the weakness in the system result as what we call a corruption. Earlier on the panel, we talked about looking for some sort of a solution to see whether we could really help out to tackle down this corruption. And I noticed a gentleman who was giving the keynote address, Professor Richard Higginson. Then I thought, that name rings the bell. Because 7 years ago, I was invited by University of Cambridge to talk about this very, very topic. I talk about how education would be able to, would be effective to tackle against collective corruption. So the corruption in developing country, in some country, I don't want to name the name of the countries, but it's so sad that the corruption has become a collective undertaking. You will see that those who pay bribe and those who receive bribe, and of course also the audience or the onlooker who really look at it and laugh and sort of enjoy some sort of entertainment. This is what we call collective corruption. It's a very advanced state of corruption because they don't have that kind of a guilt. They do it simply because the system say do it, and no one would bother you. So now I would like to look into this system. Weakness is human, and to err is even more human. We cannot blame the first sin, as Jesus' crucifixion did cleanse us from that first sins and made human more superior than other living things. Therefore, there is no excuse for not removing temptations by patching up all loopholes in the laws, regulations, which govern workplaces and even the church. Loopholes create temptations, and temptation creates corruption, which is the disease that will kill our businesses, our country, our world, as well as our church if we are not careful enough. Although good leaders have tried to patch up loopholes, but the attempts have always been compromised by the weak system. Up until the age of computer in 1970, I mentioned to you, or even today in the old-style business environments, most loopholes involve the absence of adequate offline internal control, such as the lack of separation of conflicting duties and the plain forgeries. In other words, we allow unauthorized person to get into the database and basically make the change. Prior to the invention of the digital technology at the beginning of this 21st century, computerized system still had many weak areas and was still vulnerable to theft and loss. Not only the properties, but also the souls as well. Now, digital technologies is here, although it disrupts many businesses and threatens many human jobs, not only in the manufacturing, but in the back office as well. This is the bright side of the digital disruption. Why so? Back office tasks are mostly human work, which are often mishandled, either unintentional or intentional. Now, you probably heard the word, it's now becoming a household word nowadays, and it will become even more so. It's blockchain. In many of my speeches early on, I call blockchain infrastructure God sent, as it provides a platform for any application with hack-free databases. Now, don't misunderstanding the word blockchain and Bitcoin. They're totally different. Blockchain is the platform infrastructure, but it's so good that no one ever hacked it. So then, those people who interest in digital money, then dare to get into the blockchain technology, and they create the what you call the kind of word that become so wonderful because it creates value very quickly on nothing. And that is Bitcoin, you know, the Bitcoin situation. And it got on very fast because it's actually, technically, no one can really steal the value of the, or make any alteration to the database which provide the platform, you know, for Bitcoin. But because of the Bitcoin, many of them are just coming out from nothing. It's just only on the speculation and only on the trust. That's the reason why the value plummets significantly in the past year that we saw. But if the Bitcoins or cryptocurrency based on the white paper is basically the feasibility of that particular project upon which Bitcoin is actually raised the value on. There are nowadays...
One more minute, please.
All right. As you know, that database is so important. If you use a conventional protection, it's subject to hack, subject to mishandling. But if you put the database put into this so-called the blockchain technology, it's actually make it very difficult. I don't know how much I have to tell you a little about blockchain. And let me assume that you know the blockchain. Blockchain is something that if it's only one entry, in the conventional way, you put in one ledger. But blockchain, you put into the ledger of all concerned people in your organization and basically linked by the chain. So if you want to change an item in ledger number 1, all 5 ledger, the other 4 must approve. This is basically how it works. That's why it's very difficult for you to go in and make that change. A few more inventions from technologically advanced countries such as Estonia. I have been the Honorary Consul General for Estonia, for Thailand for nearly 19 years now. So I have all these genius people walking through my consulate in Thailand. So I really appreciate that this technology will basically plug up all the loopholes in the system and make it very difficult really for anyone try to go in and try to change the data within the database and make all the personal gains. So I really urge you, our friends at this Congress, that if you have the authority that's given to you, you should look into this blockchain technology to protect all the database. Don't ever give any temptation to your staff or anyone who really have the possibility to alter the database. That is really something that you could do to help reducing corruption. In fact, prohibiting corruption simply by using this very popular technology called blockchain. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. So we only have some minutes to finish, and I will come back to you, Professor. For us to conclude. You mentioned those are good examples, and they bring us some good experience and how this business can positively impact common good. But there are some companies and groups of companies and countries that are passing for serious problems. In your presentation, you talk about we need to heal. How can we heal a company and then a country for such bad experience and coming back for a more conscious meaning of business like you propose?
I'm not sure I understand fully. Are you saying if a company has had a bad history or a bad past? You know, I don't know where the expression comes from, but that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. Is that from the church? I don't know. But there's always hope. I think there's always a future. I think in many companies' case, it takes a new leader to bring in a new climate, a new culture, a new sense of purpose, etc. So when we've looked at companies like Volkswagen and others that have gone through big scandals, I think in recent years, Renault is going through that right now. Uber went through that. You know. So it does take, because the consciousness of the leader ultimately puts an upper limit on the consciousness of the organization. And so if you're trying to change it with the same leader under whom the problem emerged, it would be very difficult. So typically, I think we bring in a leader who has already that consciousness and is now able to have a fresh start. And it's always possible, I believe, to renew and reinvent yourself as a business. I think it's true of us as individuals as well. We can repent and we can move on and actually learn and find meaning in our suffering and convert that into something very positive as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you, my guests in this panel. And I will invite João Pedro to come here, so probably we'll leave the stage for a final experience. You really need us for this experience.
And then come back for a picture. Okay, up to you. Would you like to leave?
No,
you can stay. So, final remarks. It was an outstanding day, in my perspective. We will speak about that tomorrow. Dinner will be at 8:30 in the Marriott, not in the same room, but in the upper level, I think, but someone will show you to you. Adoration tomorrow at 8 a.m. Volunteers, if you want, you are invited to. It's not part of the program, and we will be starting here the program at 9 a.m. Okay? We will finalize with a praying, and I will ask the Father Martin for that. But prior to that, we are seated in very comfortable seats all the day, so let's do something uncomfortable. Okay? The final activity. I would like to invite Raj for that activity. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Is this thing still on? Yeah. I'd like to ask you all to stand up.
Okay.
Do some stretching if you have to. These chairs are too comfortable, I realize. It's very comfortable chairs. We're going to start with a little practice that I believe originates in Africa. So I'd like you to find a partner. You're going to be with them for a few minutes now, okay? So find a partner and turn towards them. Are you able to stand right where you are? Is that okay? Can you face each other without talking very much? My partner, okay. Shh. Please face each other. Look at each other. And you don't have to touch yet. There will be touching. Okay, so the practice is called I See You. So stand up, find a partner, and look at them. Look into their eyes and say to them, I see you. And answer back, I feel seen. Keep looking at each other. Don't look at me. There's nothing to look at here. Again, look deeply into their eyes. Look past the retina. Look past the color of their eyes. See their soul. And say, I see you. And I feel seen. I see you. And now, okay. Now I would like you to hug your partner. In a way, wait for the instructions. Wait. You hug them in a way that your hearts are touching. Okay, heart to heart. Okay. And stay hugging. Okay, stay hugging. Shh. Please hug and in silence. Okay. I see some people are not, please. No talking, no talking. No, please continue. Please continue. Without speaking. I have to have silence for this part. Otherwise, we'll be here for a while. Okay. I don't see a lot of people hugging over there. I'm not sure what the problem is. Please try to join us. Please realize, as you're holding this person, that you are holding somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's husband, somebody's wife, somebody's mother, and maybe somebody's father. You're holding somebody who has been afraid in their life. You're holding somebody who has experienced deep loss in their life. You are holding someone who may have been abused at some point in their life. You're holding somebody who has wondered if they belong at some point in their life. You're holding somebody who has wondered how they can express who they are without being judged. You're holding somebody who in many ways is just like you. You are holding somebody's precious child. You are holding the person in the mirror. And as you hold that person, feel yourself melt into each other. Feel that sense of one consciousness, one being. We're all connected. Gently release your partner. Step back. And look at them again and say, I see you. And I feel seen. And thank them.
Well done.
And thank you. Thank you.
Don't worry, you. I can tell.
Thank you.
I don't have to say it. It's obvious.
I know.
That was sweet.
I think both of us were not very good candidates, were we?
Heart to heart was different. You understand me? Oh, nice.
Final prayer, please. Silence, please.
Una breve oración en español. Padre bueno, te damos gracias por este día tan rico. Te damos gracias por todos los encuentros. Cada uno, cada una de nosotros somos únicos. Nos enriquecemos y estamos construyendo juntos este proyecto de tu Hijo en este mundo, reino de Dios, reino de justicia, de fraternidad, de amor. Y por eso nos comprometemos y pedimos tu bendición en el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo. Amén.
Muchas gracias. Sentada.
Not a bad thing.